All right, see you
live.
Hey everybody, how you doing? We are here live at the Daytona Beach Comic Convention in DeLand, Florida this year for the first time. My name is Matt Knowles. We are on a panel with some comic creators and writers. So I'm going to go down the line here. We're going to talk to these guys about what got them into comics, some tips they have for new creators out there, and the things that are exciting them about what they have going on in the comic industry. So right here to my immediate right, Mr. Richard Rivera. Why don't you tell them who you are, what you do?
Hi, I'm Richard Rivera, writer, creator of a couple of things, Stabby Bunny, Shadow Play, Storm Pirates, create a comic, a few things like that. But what I'm most excited about right now is being publisher for Scoop, the all ages imprint of Scout Comics.
Right next to him, Mr. Martin Pierre. Why don't you introduce yourself, Martin, and what you do?
Hi, I'm Martin Pierre. I'm with Cosmic Times. We're a small press publisher, been in business for almost 12 years now. Published books like Deep Space Tragedy, Sugar Boogers, and of course, The Good, the Bad, and the Prehistoric, now available, about dinosaurs and cowboys. I also run a convention in West Palm Beach coming up on October 2nd, PalmCon. You can find out more about that at palmcon.net. That's who I am. It's not that exciting, not as exciting as these two guys next to me. And Richard, and of course.
And if you guys want more Sugar Boogers, you need to write Cosmic Times and say, give me more Sugar Boogers. That's what we all want, so let's make it happen. Beside him is Mr. Roland Mann. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Roland. I am a writer since the late 1980s, and well, it was a long time ago. Titles like Cat and Mouse, Trumps. I wrote some Miss Fury. Most folks know me because I was an editor at Malibu Comics and at Marvel in the early 90s, back when there was lots of money in comics. I run the small press publishing company Silverline now, where we are a genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publishing.
And last but not least, right next to him is a new creator on the scene, Mr. Anthony Sika. Why don't you give us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, how you doing? My name is Anthony Sika. I am an independent comic creator, publisher, artist, and writer. My imprint's called Wild Mercury Comics. I have 3 titles out. One's called Venus and Mars. One's called Oh My God, 6 issues out. And a new title called Misty America. So 2 years time, 7 comics out.
That's pretty good.
And I'm excited about my next one.
Sweet. And like I said, my name is Matt Knowles. I am one half of the content creation team at In Symmetry Creations. We're most known for our steampunk time travel series, Heirs of the Seal Door, our medieval fantasy series, Tales from Nocturnia. The fact that we also produce metal music, and our second metal album is actually debuting here at this show. And we also have a new title coming out on this guy's label, Scoot, called Misfits Clubhouse. There's the first little short story is in Scoot Frontiers, and there will be some full issues of that coming out sooner than later. Okay, so we're going to go down the line. We've talked about different levels of experience in the industry. I'm going to actually start with Roland on this one. We're going to go around. So Roland, it's 2021. You said you've been out there in the industry for quite a while.
Yes.
What do you think is the most significant change to the industry now compared to when you started, or even where it was 5 years ago?
Sure. Technology. For me, that's an easy one. When I first got started in comics, we were still writing our scripts on electric typewriters or on computers and sending them on disc, or on the what's the paper that had all the rungs in. I forget what it's called now.
Dot matrix printers.
Dot matrix printers. Thank you. On dot matrix printers. So we would get that. Now you can just email them. You can email them documents. Colorists used to, color everything by hand. If you want to see that, you can stop by and look at Barb. She's got some of the old colors that she did. Now everything's done on computer and Photoshop, and you don't have to make plates anymore. Print on demand has changed the printing game. So back in the day, when I would take something to press, you had to print a minimum of 3,000 copies. Print on demand, you can go print 1 copy if you want to. And now, the price per unit is higher, but you don't have to keep, 2,000 copies in your warehouse. So from my perspective, technology has been the biggest change in comics.
What about for you, Martin?
Oh, in my time making comics, one of the biggest change, again, is some of the technology, but I started with Photoshop and all that stuff. It's the social media aspect of it all. It's a double-edged sword. It can bring attention to your project. It can also burn you too. So it's a fine line you have to walk when you're a content creator with the social media. So I would say that was a definite game changer for the industry. And I came in, print on demand was just starting. So that's kind of how I got in. And that's definitely been, I've watched, more and more and more and more creators come to comics because of the print on demand aspect. Where when I started, I did MegaCon, it was like me and like 3 other guys making, consider themselves comic book publishers, and now there's a whole room at this convention full of guys who are comic publishers or are making their own comics or have you. So yeah, technology is definitely, but I would say social media was a big game changer for how we market our comics, most definitely.
And what about for you, Richard? I know you started off as just a writer yourself, and now you've transitioned into being a writer, but also being a co-publisher with Scout Comics.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen the industry change in the years that you've been?
Well, I'd say, I echo what's already been said, but also, for me, that's led to accessibility. I mean, basically, if somebody wants to and they want to organize a team, they can make a comic book now. And that's happening more and more. And it's great because it just gives those stories, we have so much more to enjoy now. And they're no longer gatekeepers. If somebody has the will and they've got, just some funds now, they can make it happen. So accessibility.
So I'm actually going to pose this question differently to Anthony. You actually segued perfectly to where I wanted to go to Anthony and then kind of go around from there. So Anthony, you said you've got 7 issues out right now in 2 years. In the time that you've been doing it, what have you seen be different? What have you learned from where you thought you were at the beginning to where you are now that you're like, wow, I thought I knew all this stuff at the beginning and now I know a lot more?
Well, even though I'm a new creator, I'm in my 50s. So from the traditional enjoyment and love of comic books, I started naively printing comics and not using so much social media, even though I do that for a living. I was taking my comics, printing about 500 books, and I was going to comic book stores and putting them on the wall. Some stores paid me, some didn't. I don't care. I just want people to go in a store and get my stuff. Well, 6 issues later, I'm doing campaigns online and doing that because after a while, I wasn't breaking even. And that's the thing. All the things that have changed in comics, let's take digital out of the aspect. If we're all selling physical books, the medium's the same, the message is the same, but it's how we market it. And that's been the biggest thing, and also, again, it's the idea of getting the word out there, networking. And a big challenge is, it's great when, I want to segue to another topic real quick. It's great when you're at a convention and you're all marketing with other creators, but there is a nut to crack in reaching that audience. Because we all know that circle in the drain with other creators, other writers. Oh, I follow you on this, you follow me on that. Okay, that's great, but our audiences see each other.
Right.
Absolutely. So Roland, what is something that you've learned that you would like to impart to either a fan that's out there or to someone who wants to become a creator or wants to level up their game? What's something you feel like you can impart to them if that's a good piece of advice?
Action speaks louder than words.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of people who I meet at conventions and they say, I got this idea for a comic, or I've had this idea for this comic for a long time. And of course, what I say now, because of all the stuff we talked about, all the print on demand, my question is, why are you not making it? Why aren't you making this? Stop having to just be an idea and make it be a reality from your idea. If this were 30 years ago, 28 years ago, it would be a lot harder because it did require a lot more. But it's so easy to get it done today. It's as Richard was saying, it's like it's really opened up so that everyone can participate. If you can put it together, then you can make a comic.
Well, and Anthony has got a music background, and one thing that I'm sure that he can respect, I think it applies to comics as well. There's a phrase in music that says people want to hear about a band, people don't want to hear from a band. Because every single one of us on this panel can say, oh, what I do is amazing, and it's the best thing ever, but you know what? We all are going to say that, and there's no way that someone on the outside is going to know the difference because we all have stake in our own game.
Right.
When someone else can be like, you guys got to check out this book from Mark Piero.
Yes.
That book is awesome. That's going to hold a lot more weight because it's not something that I personally would have stake in promoting that book. They're like, oh, there's other people talking about it. Don't be afraid to solicit your friends that are going to be willing to talk about your books, to have them do it. Because if all you're doing is tooting your own horn, it's just going to become white noise topic.
You just stole what I was going to say. I mean, there's a reason our moms teach us don't toot your own horn, right?
So Martin, what's something you'd like to impart to people about it if they either want to start getting into creation or they want to level up what they're doing?
Well, I think I might seem somewhat controversial saying. I don't want to. I'm not challenging anybody or saying that Roland said.
Challenging said.
Okay. I think again using the phrase double-edged sword, what the Prime Demand has created is there is no barrier to entry, meaning that anybody can create comics.
Which means
anybody. And so my advice to everybody is learn how to make comics before you make comics. Learn about the industry. Learn how to write. There's so many people. Nobody here, of course. But there's so many people putting out comics that don't understand story structure. And you're reading like, I don't even understand what I just read because they don't understand the art. Comics is a different kind of art form. My background's film. Comics is an entirely different background than film. Writing a film is entirely different than writing a comic, and it's entirely different than writing a novel. Just because you can do one doesn't mean you can do the other. So my advice is always learn everything you can about the industry and how to create a comic before you do it. Because you're going to put your foot out there, and it's not going to be the best work you can make. It's going to look amateur, and it's going to be amateur hour, and it doesn't help the industry to have. It's never going to help your career to put inferior to launch your career with inferior product. Try to make it the best product you can before you launch it. That's my advice. Again, everybody should do what they want to do and follow their passions, but try to be the best you can at it.
What about you, Richard? What's something that you feel is good for a new creator or a creator that wants to level their game up to know from your experiences?
Well, I'd say let's incorporate what's been said, but let's say you do know a little bit about comics, and let's say you begin to put together your team. I would endeavor to learn more about your team before you just start producing. You need to kind of maybe either through your own interaction with them, maybe through following them on social media for a while, maybe through just like we have a network and we hear if somebody never makes a deadline or if somebody is taking money for artwork and never completed it, etc. So not saying that the industry, that's an exception, but you don't want to hit one of those exceptions either. So I would say know your team and know what to expect from your team before you really get too deep into it and before you're making financial obligations and investing a lot in somebody who may or may not have the same level of motivation to make sure it gets completed.
And to piggyback on that, the talent that it might cost you a little more to get the talent that's going to come through, but you get what you pay for sometimes.
Right.
And to piggyback on that again, comic book industry is a small industry. It has from the outside, it looks bigger than it actually is. And so when you say you hear about people not making their deadlines, it's absolutely true, because when someone can't do what they promise, it doesn't take long to get that word out and everybody suddenly knows.
And to piggyback on all of you,
If we're struggling,
if you're having trouble with your team, in my case, if you have the ability to do it yourself and make the team all about you, because you as the creator, you have the vision. So if you can execute the vision, it may take a little longer, it may take a lot more effort, but I'm a firm believer in artists who are also writers and creators. It empowers you to not worry about. It's like I was telling Matt yesterday, there's a difference between being in a band, which I've been in many, and doing a solo recording. You don't answer to anyone, and it's your vision. And you live or die by it, if you have the ability to do this.
And one of the things I would say too is not only be excited about your own product, but know what your product is. And that may sound like a silly phrase to say, but if you don't know how to pitch and how to talk about your own project, how is someone who is at your table or someone that can be a prospective fan of yours even to know what to do?
Right.
Did multiple shows this summer with Richard, and Richard has a title called Stabby Bunny. I have never seen a title in comics that sells itself like Stabity Bunny. We were at Awesome Con in DC, and Richard had to do the Scoot booth, which was away from where we had everything else, so we had his Stabity Bunny stuff there. I've never in my life seen a property where people are like, I've seen the Stabity Bunny now, tell me what it's about. And if Richard would not have schooled us on exactly how to promote it, we wouldn't have been able to make the sales that he needed. But he knew what his product was. He schooled us on that so we could then go and educate the people on it very quickly. And those things flew off the shelf. We all need a Stabity Bunny.
Well, to go with that, that goes back to a couple of talk about getting ready before you launch a comic. Make sure you're putting out a comic that's marketable.
Yeah, sure.
I have a couple of passion projects I ran on Kickstarter, like Decisions. It didn't do so well because it wasn't as marketable as a product. Like Stabity Bunny, like you just say the title, like, oh, what is that? What is this about? So that all needs to be part of the process. Like, am I making a comic anybody's going to want to read?
Yeah.
Does somebody want to read my Toe Jam comic? Probably not. But now, the eventual.
Well, I was gonna say, but maybe if it's the Toe Jam Bunny, you never know.
But if you could spin it and it's Super Toe Jam Adventures in Wonderfoot Land or something,
Yeah.
maybe you can find
New
it.
from Cosmic Times. So we have a question over here.
Yeah, so, this is more of kind of like a general question. So
Just gonna pitch us right here.
something that I've wanted to do, for a while was publish something, and I kind of like self-censored myself with that, and I was part of a comic group. It's called Sequential Artist Workshop. It's in Gainesville.
Okay.
And so something that's kind of like a passion project of mine was to do like an autobiographical comic, because this was like when the pandemic just started. And I had like a couple of pages in here of like just because like for me getting my work out there was more just kind of like I guess like a personal journey almost to kind of get my voice out there and kind of just touch on the industry almost.
Okay.
Like autobiographical, personal kind of like my experience with like moving off to college, like leaving my family, developing my own voice, kind of like that. And so I guess my question more of is like, so I kind of like, how would you recommend someone who's kind of like dipped their toe in an anthology form, expand that into more personal kind of like getting like a like their own like series or stuff like that? Because you mentioned like building a team or something like that. But what kind of, if you guys want to take a look at this, we can pass it around.
Yeah,
Like,
we can take a look at it afterwards. I would say, I think I know what your question is, and I'm gonna kind of answer that a little bit for these guys. There's two easy ways you can do that. One, you could go to Kickstarter and you could do a project that way. You wouldn't just want to just jump up there and think you're gonna make millions. You need to be realistic about that. We could do whole panels on that.
Yeah.
But you've also got three guys right here in the middle that all are publishing heads either for a specific line at a comic publisher or they are the comic publisher. And I know guys like this, if you talk to them, they're going to be like, hey, this is what you need to do if you want to be on our label, on our publisher. This is the kind of things you need to improve on. They will give you good information if you want to actually go and pitch something like that. And one of the people that's on Scoot, her name is Seda Wolf. She started writing her graphic novel at 13 years old and was signed on Scout Comics, on Scout proper at 15.
Wow.
And she is absolutely brilliant. So the only reason I bring her up is just to show you've got guys that are all in the same age range up here on this panel.
You mean just old?
Well, okay, so 21 to 25 right up here on this panel. Just because we're all at that age group doesn't mean you have to be there to have that experience. Again, Seda's a perfect example. We're all going to be working for her someday, and there's a lot of Sedas out there that just are untapped.
Yeah, and Seda is the one-stop shop. Seda is the everything from writer to letterer to artist to colorist. She does it all. And right now she's working on her second art. But she's starting that with, again, like the information we've already shared. She's starting first with the outline of the entire second art, and then she's going back and then filling in the details and then editing that before any pen is put to paper. So So she's doing it the right way. She's doing the right steps. She's making sure what she's got is strong before she starts building the house, and it's got the foundation.
Absolutely.
And I may have some gray, but I was 22 when I started, so.
And I'm gonna impart something that if you don't wanna talk to guys in their 50s who work for companies and you wanna be, and I get the idea that you mentioned autobiographical many times
Yeah,
and you talked about personal
yeah,
and your own journey. Realize that art is subjective and you don't have to even go to a company. You could go to a printer, publish a book, graphic novel, a single, a book of prose, whatever you want. You can go start a band and record something. It's when you want to turn something that's a personal expression into commerce. And there is a difference there. You know, people say, oh, I made this comic book for me. That's great. If you want to read it and you want to give it to your boyfriend, your mom, or your sister, or your friend, great. But when you then go to make the fine line about pitching it to someone in the industry, make sure that it's interesting enough so that other people will want to read it. And also, you know, I don't know if Stabby Bunny is about him. So that's where you
God, I
make
hope not.
you I draw about a big boob woman who has big guns and is a time traveler.
Is that like you?
I'm none of those things. I don't put myself in anything I write because I'm not interesting enough. You understand? So the thing is, if you're gonna explore something, make sure that it's for you first. And then you pack some guns and get implants, maybe stab some bunnies, and then you pitch it to these guys because they have to sell it. So that's all I'm saying is there is a line there
Yeah.
where okay, am I doing this for myself or for art
yeah.
or money? So.
It's funny you bring up, my artist, one of my artists, Zach Bassing, I used to, when he first started out, we would talk about that. And he's like, well, this is my art. I said, are you selling it? Because it's not art anymore, it's now a product, right? You have to
Art
sell
and
it.
commerce.
Yeah. But now I was thinking about Richard.
And they can blend.
Stabby Bunny did take a journey to get to Scout. You had self-published, then you got with one other publisher, and then, so it's a journey sometimes.
Yeah, and as far as, and it can go in reverse because Stabby Bunny, while Stabby Bunny is not my personal journey, I did have populated the world with a number of characters, and one of them was very close to being me. And I did do a special issue that deals with a very personal matter and a personal part of my life, which in this case, we did an issue that dealt with gay bashing and somebody being assaulted, etc. And I actually mirrored the characters on myself and my husband. So you can take any number of ways, but also realize that what is personal to you might be art to us, and we don't get something truly breakthrough if somebody is just trying to present what we've seen before or making sure it's tailored to us. It might be something that, you know, your autobiographical book might be considered, you know, crisp, interesting, who knows? It's something people that haven't seen before. So, you know, I don't think Matt was saying when you approach us, we're going to tell you what to do. We're going to maybe look at what you have and be able to, hopefully we all want the best for the creator. So it's like, well, maybe, you know, you pursue this for a while, you do this. You've also got web comics, you've got all kinds of avenues. Some people have built juggernauts on having a web comic first, and then the very first time they sell their comic, they're selling 100,000 issues or whatever. I mean, so
And they come out of nowhere. It's like, where'd you come from?
yeah, webtoons, I've been there, you know. With any art or personal expression, it is always serve that inner vision and serve your own calling and what you need to create. Sometimes people can tell you or advise you or give you a few options to where, well, I see this aspect of it could be highlighted. Maybe take that and make that your commercial product and always make your own art.
And a good litmus test too. You can, with Kickstarter on webtoons, you put it out, you see what your feedback is. If people are like, maybe I need to spice it up. I mean, obviously, seek as much advice as you can.
Well, and that's actually what I would say. I would say show it to everybody.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be selective. I would just say, you know, I don't care if they're 50-year-old white guys. I'd say show it to everybody. Anybody who has been walked that path before, seek out their advice. Then what you do is you take all that advice and you put it in a bucket and you stir it up and you get something out of it, right? You might not do everything Martin says to do, right? But you put it into the bucket and say, okay, I'm going to learn something from what all of these people have said. What's the most common thread? And it might not be the exact words, but it's the meaning behind what they said. It's okay, I get this. This is what I'm going to do for me, right?
Sure. You'll get contradicting terms.
Of course.
Because I know guys in this room who took a entirely different path than I do, and we disagree 100%.
Yeah.
So, but that's not saying some of his advice, some of my advice.
Martin tells me I'm wrong all the time.
But,
He's
like,
like,
but I'm
why are you
constantly
doing this? That's
right.
wrong.
So,
We do need facial hair though.
Seriously. So I'll add one thing to this, and then we're going to move on to the next topic. And we've done whole panels on this before. One of the most important things about a story, if you want to go and share it with anybody, is know what your concept is, know what your conclusion is, know where you're going in that story. Because if you're just sharing an idea with somebody, everybody in this room has got an idea about something that would be cool. Being able to write a story, you have to have the idea and you have to know where it's going, because the last thing anybody wants is to invest their time in your story and not have it go anywhere. They want to know they're actually going to get a payoff at the end, whatever that payoff may be. Then understand, how long is it going to take for me to go from this concept to this conclusion? It could be a full graphic novel. It could be a 5-page story. It could be a 1-page story. Steph, who is my partner in crime at Insymmetry Creations, has done panels at San Diego Comic-Con, WonderCon, off of a 2-page story that she got published. She was able to get on panels at San Diego Comic-Con off of 2 pages.
Oh, wow.
I mean, obviously she did other things as well, but that was her jumping off point to be able to do that. So it doesn't mean that she had to go and do this big grand thing to get there. It started from a 2-page story that built and built and built to the next step. So I want to go specifically to the guys that are up here. We're going to start with Martin Piera. And everybody's going to get to answer this because everybody's going to want to answer this. Everybody here has got a table that is out there at Daytona Beach Comic Con.
yes, sir.
If somebody comes to your table, I want you to tell the people here and the people online what excites you about what is on the table that you have right now, and why should they be excited about what's on your table? Everybody's going to get a chance to answer that.
Oh, I've actually turned the table down. We're just totally focused on this show for the most part on the good, the bad, and the weird story. It's a comic about dinosaurs and cowboys. How much cooler do you get than that? And it's got this cool Don Bluth style of art, that kind of, that 1970s, 80s animation style that Don Bluth used to do for Disney. It's an all ages book, but by all ages, we like to call it the Pixar effect. And that it's all ages for me, it's all ages for Richard, it's all ages for him, it's all ages for you, it's all ages for a kid. Anybody can read it and get something out of it. So I am so excited about this book. We had a successful Kickstarter. It does well at shows. It's just a fun book, and I really enjoy it.
Anthony Seeker, when somebody comes to your table and they're like, what do you got going on over here? Get me excited about your product. What excites you? What would you tell me?
Well, I have 3 unique, truly independent comic books, all done by the same person. And I have all the traditional art on the table so that you can see the transfer of what I did on paper, on my Bristol boards, to the finished product. And again, the storytelling is focused and precise. And just like he said, every book that I do, whether it's a 6-issue run or it's a 24-issue run, I know how it begins and I know how it ends before I ever put a pencil to paper.
And what are the names of the titles that you have out there besides the 2
I have
America?
6 issues of Oh My God and 1 issue of Venus and Mars, which is a sci-fi anthology.
Awesome. All right, Roland Mann, talk about Silverline.
I apologize because you've heard this so many times. I'm going to tell you about Cat and Mouse. Cat and Mouse
I
is
love
a
Cat and Mouse.
story of a guy who gets a telephone call from his ex-fiance. And she says, hey, my kid sister ran away. Would you go get her and bring her home? Well, it's his ex-fiance, so he doesn't really want to do it, but he's studying to be a police officer. So he says, let me see what I can do. So he goes to New Orleans, only to find out that the kid's sister has been caught up in a human trafficking ring. So he has to figure out how to get the kid's sister out of the human trafficking ring and get her home. And yes, there are ninjas involved.
Of course. Is exactly what should happen in this situation.
And I love the book.
Thank you,
It's
sir.
very
I
much
appreciate
unique.
that.
Richard Rivera, what excites you about the things that you have under your umbrella?
Well, since we've mentioned Stabity Bunny, I'm going to mention Stabity Bunny briefly, but then what really excites me right now is what we're doing with Scoop. Stabity Bunny, you hear that title, you hear the thing, it grabs you form certain images. However, I will tell you, spoiler alert, the traditional modern, the first storyline that I've done for Stabity Bunny, which has 12 issues right now, has the bunny cannot move and stabs nothing. It's actually about a little girl, her mom, and her grandmother, 3 generations of a family. That family has been pursued by a supernatural force for more than a century. As a result, they have learned all of these skills. The mom is kind of like Sam and Dean Winchester combined. The grandmother has some gypsy magic. The little girl has a little bit of both. But the bunny is an inanimate talisman of sorts that serves still to protect the little girl. It's a story about family. It has a scene where mom and daughter are washing dishes and talking about grandfather and or great grandfather in this case, and even when he's got sundowners, and even when he can't remember your name, he still loves you. So nothing like you'd expect at all. But as a result, to give people more stabbing with their Stabity Bunny, I did an Elseworlds of my own series, and this one is more like Looney Tunes meets Kill Bill.
Oh, whoa.
But let's be honest. Wile E. Coyote was never trying to hug the Roadrunner. If you think of the old Looney Tunes, you don't even have to say Looney Tunes meets Kill Bill. It's really just like Looney Tunes was as far as the cartoon violence is concerned. So we got that. We go into Fairyland, Wonderland, etc. on that end. I've been taking up so much time here. We don't have as much as I wanted for Scoot. But Scoot, this magazine, Scoot Frontiers, if any of you have ever had experience with highlights or that kind of a thing, this is a more comic-centric version of highlights, where we have stories that range from people who can't quite read yet, or might just be looking at letter sounds, etc. It ends in a puzzle, a simple puzzle for them, and keeps going up until you're all the way into, well into YA and beyond. But again, everything's all ages. So it's for all audiences, they can get something out of it, just like Martin said. In this, the other thing that's exciting about Scoop Frontiers is that it allows us to have somebody premiere their new property if they want, or their own story with only 6 pages. You don't have to have a 12-issue arc. You don't have to have a 24-page comic. As long as what you're selling is a little concise story, then you might be able to submit and be in Scoop Frontiers.
And to segue on that, these people right here are actually a story that we have at Insymmetry Creations. The first appearance of Misfits Clubhouse, which features a little girl named Miki and her friend Stig, and their ferret and sloth friends, Ferret and Sloth, that just go through all kinds of shenanigans and fun stuff. And for myself and Stefan and Sim, it's been a fun release for us to do that, because we're like, how silly, how ridiculous can we be? The next story arc, they get trapped inside a pinball machine and have all kinds of adventures in there. Because our normal stories are a little more serious when in the way that they're written. Heirs of Isildur is steampunk time travel. It's where steampunk comics and metal collide. There's a metal soundtrack that goes along with it. We also like to say it's time travel in reverse. It's not Back to the Future where you're trying to go to the past and change events. It is about a watchmaker who has been tasked with making sure time does not waver even by a fraction of a second, who accidentally opens up a time portal and starts to corrupt the timeline. Our other title is Tales from Nocturnia, which is a story about a medieval executioner who's trying to get out of the family business, and the kingdom around him is falling apart, and he keeps trying to pull him back into the life of violence. So those are the things that we have. And also the new metal album that goes along with debuting at Daytona Beach Comic Con. That actually it's Heirs of Isildur versus Tales from Nocturnia, because we have 5 new songs for Heirs and 5 songs for Tales from Nocturnia. So that's the thing that gets me excited when you come over to our table. So now we're going to go one step. What you got?
I just want to say, I didn't know we were doing infomercial answers to that.
Yes.
But I just wanted to say a quick elevator pitch. My 6 issues of Oh My God is Sex in the City meets The Exorcist. And no
That is what I wanted from you, sir.
I'm sorry, I was confused by the question. No one under 18 should read it, but it is fun.
So with that being said, now, because this is going to be online, this is streaming, so I want you guys, we're going to go the reverse direction here. Why don't you tell us about something that is not on your table right now, that's something that is exciting to you, that you're looking forward to as a release that's going to be upcoming from either Richard Rivera or from Scoop?
I'd have to say we have so many great titles, so many great creators. However, we have a new line coming out called Launch. And Launch can be little 8x8 books, kind of like in the Curious George or Where the Wild Things Are kind of format. But it's going to bridge the gap, or meant to bridge the gap between storybooks and comic books. Because it's hard for somebody to go from single panel, a couple of words on the page, all the way up to a double page splash with a slide to the next thing with an overlap, etc. So stage 1 of Launch will be very much like the picture books, where it still is a single page, some a few word sounds, kind of, you know, splish splash or grr, etc. Stage 2 has a little expanded vocabulary, still just single panel pages. The stage 3 has either a 1 panel, 2 panel, or maximum of 3 panels to start showing you go from here to here, and tries to make it very clear of how you read a comic book page. So there's 3 different stages, but some of our creators are going back and taking their property they have now and simplifying it and making it a stage 1, a stage 2, and a stage 3. Then you can go from that to reading the comic. So I'm really excited about Launch. That's going to be coming out in November. And we're starting it with, we didn't put out 1 title, we're putting out 4 titles at the same time, so that, you know, you can have all those stages and experience that, and somebody can set that up in their store.
All right, what about you, Martin? What's something that's got you excited that's going to be coming out, or a project you're working on right now?
Well, we're obviously the next issue of the Deadly Man, the Prehistoric is going to be launching on Kickstarter, hopefully for the end of the year. But I'm working on a new project called Star Raisers. I'm doing Kevin McCourt's editing it for me. He's over in the small press area. It's kind of the thematic continuation of your Thundercats, your Silverhawks, your Tiger Sharks. I came up with the idea, what would be the next thing? What would Rankin Bass put out next to try to make action figures and sell from? So that's going to be coming up next year. I'm really excited about that. We already got 3 scripts in the can, trying to plot out 2020, 23, 22 around that.
You're living in year 3000, man. What are you doing? You're planning on year
I
3000.
want to ask you, Richard, what do you have coming up next? There's another Stabby Bunny coming soon? Is there?
Well, yeah, there's Stabby Bunny. We're also the Stabby Ever After that I talked about. There's some more Stabby Ever After happening. In fact, that's going to be really interesting because we got a Russian artist that's got this kind of really classic, old school, kind of almost like Maxwell Parrish kind of a thing. You can Google that. But yeah, I'm excited about that. And also we want to conclude the first arc of Stabby Bunny and go into the second arc of Stabby Bunny. Right now, Grace is 7, but we kind of follow her life when it's interesting. So the next arc actually starts when she is 15. So,
Yeah, because I'm interested. I'm just learning about you, but I follow these guys, and I want to know what they have going on next.
So Anthony, tell me, we're going to go, tell me what you're excited about. It may just be what you have on the table next.
After the convention, I think I'm going to order some Chinese food tonight. Misty America 2, even though Misty America 1 came out 2 weeks ago, I'm already working on issue number 2. She's a time traveler, so that opens up everything for me. And I'm working on a book called Venerella simultaneously. And that is a mix of, she's pictured in that red cover. She is a vampire warrior princess from Venus. And she is kind of a mix between Vampirella and Barbarella. But it's got a very Starfire from Tamarin Teen Titans vibe to it. She comes from a royal family that's very messed up. And by the way, they're all vampires, so that's a problem. Other than that, and the Chinese food.
I better see some Chinese food in one of your issues. Vampirella better be eating some Chinese food.
Literally in one of your issues.
Okay, well, what do you have upcoming that's not on your table right now? You're excited.
Yeah, there's several things happening. Of course, we're in the middle of a crowdfunder campaign right now, which ends a week from today, which includes the first finished miniseries from Silverland. So you can get all 4 issues, or you can get the trade. We have a special project coming up that will kickstart next month that I cannot talk about.
Oh, come on,
because we have to wait until after this crowdfunder is done, and everybody's been really good on the team. So if I did it, they would all be mad at me for spilling the beans. It's a
breaking news. Come on.
I'll announce it next week, and it's seasonal.
Okay.
Seasonal.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about it because it's going to be big, and it's going to, and when I say big, I mean lots of pages, and it's going to include a whole bunch of the different Silverline teams.
Well, that sounds great.
One of the things I'm excited about is that we're getting close to finishing the first issue of a new miniseries that I'm working on called The Rejects. And it's kind of a superhero parody, superhero spoof. It ends up being comedy. I never really considered myself a comedy writer, but I have humor in the stuff that I write. So this is kind of my first attempt at some comedy about a group of heroes who can't quite make the big leagues. They're the rejects.
Awesome. Well, for us, we one of the things we don't have out on our table right now, which kind of stinks, just because the global market is so behind on pressing vinyl. With comics, you can go to comics print in 2 to 3 weeks. Vinyl takes anywhere between 3 and 8 months right now.
Wow.
So we've actually got 2 different collectible colored vinyls. We have an orange and green splatter vinyl and a blue, red, and black Galaxy vinyl print that's going to come out for Heirs of the Seal versus Chelsea Marturnia. We're working on the next issue of, we're working on issue number 1 of Mystics Clubhouse. That's going to be, it's going to be awesome. And then we also working on the next arc for Heirs of the Seal, which is called The Perilous Prospects. There's 3 songs actually on this album that are called The Perilous Prospects. The Perilous Prospects of Shadow's Haven, Perilous Prospects of the Timekeeper, Perilous Prospects of the Portals. It kind of gives you an understanding of what's going on there. But we're working on that. The art is coming out spectacular. By far, is going to be the best illustrated, the best written that we feel story for Heirs. So super stoked about that. So if there's any other questions in here, let me know. If not, I've got one more question to ask these guys.
Questions? Come on. Just think of something.
Someone, what am I ordering?
That was my question.
So
Do you like chicken teriyaki?
There's gonna be some sweet sour chicken and then some vegetable lo mein and then some vegetable rolls.
So look at what you got.
Finally, I just remembered it. So I know you guys were saying that you pretty much enjoy the technology that's come out and kind of helped with the industry and all that. But do you guys miss at all like doing things how they work? Like, is it kind of better for you to think about that time? Was it, sometimes funner to do it that way?
Even as a new creator, yes, I wish we all had time machines at some point.
Really go back, huh?
What would you change?
I would change the quality and the cream rising to the top. And I know that's probably a controversial thing to say.
I agree with that.
But just because you want to make it,
We all make best. Yeah.
doesn't mean you should always make it. Just because you want to be in a rock band doesn't always mean you should. And although art is subjective, I wanted to stir the pot a little bit.
No, I agree with that.
Because again, it'd be nice to go to, and by the way, I'm not just talking about from a creative standpoint, but I would love to pick up Stabby Bunny at the local 7-Eleven.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of having to spend $25 online, instead of having to go to a convention, and again, there's nothing wrong. We all have to change. But it would be nice sometimes to be able to have access to wonderful fiction everywhere.
I miss the physical aspect of it in that with digital, there's no original art. It's all, bits and bytes and as a fan of original art myself, I mean, I love to hold the paper and look at the pencil lines and look at the ink lines. That doesn't exist in digital, and it's not there. Now, don't get me wrong, digital makes it far easier for me as a publisher, because I don't have to worry about FedEx boxes. I don't have to worry about lost FedEx boxes or lost postal, boxes. I don't have to worry about scanning. And I work with some artists who still work traditionally, but they scan it and send it to me as a digital file. So unless they're sending me art that is part of our crowdfunder that's going to be given away, I don't ever see their art. They'll send me that so that I can, get it to the backers who get that. But that's what I miss. I miss being able, because when I was an editor, I kid you not, the FedEx guy would bring in a dolly, and the boxes would be stacked all the way to the top. And then when they weren't all to me now, because there were multiple editors in the office, But it wasn't unusual that, I'd get 2 packages, the guy next to me would get a couple packages, we'd open up our boxes, look what I got, right? And you don't do that, it's kind of like now, why your phone? Look, hey, look what I got, man. It's your, oh, what is that? Oh, yeah. So.
Tag me on that.
So, yeah, tag me on that. So that's what I miss.
See, I'll disagree. I like technology. I wish.
I didn't say I didn't like it, I just said I miss the original art.
I wish.
I just said it was more convenient.
I wish it was better. I wish
The art was
Photoshop.
better.
I wish Photoshop was more intuitive. I wish that I could work faster, because my own ability to work is what slows Cosmic Times down. If I had to buy a new computer because it wasn't fast enough.
Yeah.
That is the thing too. The cost of technology. That is a factor.
Yeah.
Because I eventually got to the point, after the last couple upgrades of Photoshop, my Mac's like, yo, bro, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But I would argue it's easier to invest in technology. So like if you're an inker, it's easier to invest in the technology than to buy the inks, the ink, and the brushes, and the draft tables, and the rulers, and the squares, and all that kind of
I
stuff.
was looking from a publisher's point of view. When you go to assemble the books and put things together and you save your files. I love tech. I wish, like I said, I wish it would move even faster and I could do more with it. I wish technology was so good I could draw. I don't have to get my art. Rich.
Well, I'd actually agree more along the lines, again, of comic books not being everywhere. But I think part of the problem is, as the industry got a little smaller and the audience got a little smaller again, many publishers made the conscious choice of building a corral around them by having 8 different Spider-Men, or having crossover that goes into the pre-crossover, that goes into the post-crossover, that goes into the Splinter crossover. And that's actually, cart before horse, I'm not sure, but that's why you couldn't have comic books out there like that, accessible everywhere. Because somebody walks up before, in the ancient times with the stone, when I get off my dinosaur as a kid and go to the grocery store or drugstore or some gas stations or any convenience store, they were there. But I go, oh my gosh, Superman's fighting some purple guy, and it was the Parasite or whatever, and you could read that issue and you'd be done. There'd be a thread running through, but because the way storytelling has evolved so much, it's part of a 12-part multi-crossover, etc. What I miss the most, and what we tried, not a commercial for Scoot at all, but that's why consciously we try as much as possible for someone to be like, I can pick this up. There's no barrier to entry. There's no reason why your grandmother can't buy this, why an uncle can't buy this. Oh no, she reads this. Oh no, she knows. Well, she doesn't have to. If you think she likes dragons, picking petunias, and this might be for her. So while it's not the question exactly the comic book industry, I believe, will always stay small until it embraces single issue, or at least get a full chunk of the story and have it be accessible where someone can just pull it off the rack, read it, enjoy it, and get that kind of distribution.
Well, I just picked up in a back issue an old Fantastic Four, and it's right in the middle of the story arc, but it was written in such a way, after you read the first page, all right, now I know what's going on.
Right.
That's why Marvel in the 80s was so successful, because that was actually an editorial rule. Is that they had to write every issue as if it was someone's first issue.
And that's kind of the way it should be.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this a slightly different way. I want to go back to just a couple of years ago when technology didn't work against the finalists that are up here. If you put a post on social media is designed to thwart that post and make it where most people don't see that you posted it.
Yeah.
If you put certain keywords about it, they don't get to see it. If you send emails from your own email group, it gets sent into the promotions group or to your own spam. So it becomes very difficult to get technology to work towards your own promotions. And that's something that I miss. You're always having to find new and creative ways to make it work, but it really sucks when you're like, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm sending something to my own email group, and they're not even getting it because technology has decided that we're sending out spam, and that's something that's frustrating to me.
Well, again, technology, the evolution is now this can get, if you want to get your email seen, you want to get your Facebook post seen, you gotta drop the bucks.
So we're about out of time, unless you got a question there. If there's a question here.
Well, and this is, I know Roman, we touched on it not that long ago, but in the scene that you guys are in, how do you see the electronic comics over the paper comics? Do you see the electronic comics now that electronics and the internet and everything has really stepped up. Is that becoming more popular? And are you guys selling more of the electronic rather than having it in your hand and being able to read it as such? I never got into Kindle because I like the papers and all of that, you know?
I think it matters what market you're in. I know that if, like for us on Kickstarter, we will sell an enormous amount of digital comics on Kickstarter, especially because that's where your overseas market is going to want to buy them. Outside of Kickstarter, we probably, every one of our Kickstarter campaigns has sold more digital comics than all of the digital comics we've ever sold outside of it combined.
Yeah. I think the perception is that digital comics are, wow, they're just good, but it's not true. And I think part of that is the digital platforms are trying to make it seem like they're so much bigger than they are. But really, the digital, I have never talked to anyone, and this includes DC. Now I haven't talked to the people I know aren't at DC, or the people who told me this information aren't at DC any longer. So this is about 3 years ago. But it's that they don't really sell, even DC Comics, they don't really sell that many digital copies to make it really worth their while. And everyone will say, oh, well, digital will replace the physical. And that's not the case. That is just not the case.
When I got into business, trade paperbacks were just the new thing. Everybody's like, trade paperbacks are going to destroy monthly comics. They did. Digitals are going to destroy monthly comics. It didn't. However, as a small press publisher, or I'm a storyteller, well, I think we're all kind of storytellers. I want my story to be read by everybody. So I'll put it on whatever platform I have to. Because if I can sell 5,000 physical copies and 10 digital copies, I'll sell the 10 digital copies too, to find 10 readers that aren't going to buy the physical copy. So I don't really embrace it like I should, but I'm not against it, because if there's readers that are just reading digital or just on Webtoons or somewhere else, I want to reach them with my story. Whether I make money on it or not, that's secondary. Well, it's not secondary, but I would like to make money too.
It's a perk, it's not a crutch. So, and it's not going to replace it, because even going after younger demographics, well, they're still in Barnes & Noble buying trade paperbacks. They're buying the hell out of manga. Those are all physical forms. However, if we want to sell a book online on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, any kind of crowdfunding, if you want to send to England, you're paying $30 to send them a floppy. If that. So that's the key. It's PDFs for your international market, for the folks that you can mail to here. Keep it physical. It is a comic book. It's not a comic image on a
Right. So we said something earlier. I'm going to end with this. We said something earlier. I'm going to give these guys the challenge, and I'll actually answer it first, just so that way they have a chance to think about it. We talked about people want to hear about a band, not from a band. So we've all talked about the things we're doing. I want you guys to go down. It could be somebody else that's here at Daytona Beach Comic Con. It could be somebody else that's just online, whatever. Talk about a book that you are excited about that is not anything that you are personally putting out. I'm going to cheat slightly because it's an anthology that we're going to be in, but it's not. I'm not saying it because of the fact we're in the anthology. It's a good anthology. Travis Gibb at Orange Cone Productions has got Cthulhu Invades Oz, which is a really well put together anthology. He's going to have a Kickstarter for Cthulhu Invades Wonderland that's going to be coming out, I guess, end of 2021 or beginning of 2022. The reason why I would recommend you researching that and taking a look at it is it's a very interestingly and uniquely done anthology series, as it is curated to have a single storyline through 20 to 30 different creative teams that is in the book. And it's dead because a lot of times you get an anthology and it's just, hey, here's 20, 30 individual couple stories, all great. But this one is actually a single thread all the way through, and Travis did a great job of curating it to make it where a reader can not only see a story by Richard Rivera or a story by this creative team or a story by that creative team, they can also see, hey, this guy actually found a way to make this story actually be told through the eyes of potentially 50 other creators between the writers and the artists. So I'll start off with that one because that's not a product of ours. So you guys can go whatever order. If there's another book or another project out there that excites you, what is it?
I'll jump in. And I'm excited about the one that Martin pitched earlier. The Good, the Bad, and Prehistoric, because I love dinosaurs, and I've always loved dinosaurs since I was a kid. So, and I probably haven't told Martin this enough, but this one that he does, Martin and I talk frequently. I mean, talk, right? Messenger. Yeah, it's one that I'm excited that he's doing. So I cheer for its success because I want to see him continue to do that.
Anthony, you got something out there you're excited about?
Yeah, when you go around the corner, you'll see my table, and make sure you stop there, but right across from there, Scout Comics with Mr. Rivera here, and Stabby Bunny is a great title, but I want to promote David Byrne's Steak.
Yes.
I had an insight look on his Steak #1 and his Jessame book way before it went to print. I saw his script and sketches and all that. A friend of mine, but I'm not plugging it because he's my friend. It is a good series. It's up to issue 6. It's a complete trade arc, but it hits me because it's got vampires and chicks stabbing other chicks and things like that. So, and I want to make one more recommendation. If you want to see a legendary publisher, go to the back of the other building. Go visit Mr. Bill Black at AC Comics. He published for 20 plus years FemForce. He's a lot older than all these guys and myself.
So in his 30s is what you're saying?
He's in his 30s. Go look through his traditional art book that he's got on his table. You will shit yourself. He's got a Dick Ayers sketch that I wanted to buy yesterday. He says it's not for sale. No doubt I couldn't afford it anyway. And then he's got a Steranko drawing in there that he said, Steranko just mailed me this, and I didn't even ask for it. And I said, that's not for sale either. He said, no. But he's got books back there, 20 years of legendary characters, and just check it out. Go even support the old timers you say, because you know that they're struggling to pay their booth pay, and get a sense of history, and then enjoy the modern stuff and see how they tie it.
Well, before I answer, I do want to say, when I was in high school, thinking about I was a career in art, I was going to go to Ringling School of Art to study animation. I asked some people, and all of them mentioned Bill Black and AC Comics. They're like, maybe comics is where you want to go instead of animation, because the hand-drawn animation is going to last forever.
He's back there. Go see him.
So he's been around that long in Florida. The
Yep, wrong word.
I could say, for the next book. However, I do want to mention somebody that's not here. Out in there, Kevin Laporte with Inverse Press, Flatline Comics. He has his book, Vicious Circus, about killer clowns, but they're not bad clowns. They rescue children who are abused, and they put their evil clown vengeance on the people that abuse them. But he and I had a long conversation. He's doing a process right now that I'm excited about. I'm going to see how it works. He's going to try to do a book monthly on Kickstarter.
Whoa.
You get 2 weeks for the campaign, 2 weeks to fill, and launch the next campaign. He's actually printing the
2
books
weeks to fulfill?
Wow. Yeah, he's actually printing the books while the campaign's on.
I'm very curious to see how this.
Wow.
I definitely want to see how that works.
So is he guessing as to how many he's going to get? And that's
Well,
how
you look at your previous Kickstarter, it's like 10%. But he's doing a Halloween one right now. He has it.
Hey, let me tell you what, with writers, that was a serious plot twist you just threw it at the very end of this.
I know that. I'm assuming it's public knowledge. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. But he's doing a Halloween one right now. Then issue 6 of Vicious Circus is coming out, followed by a Christmas one that's going to launch in November. So I'm excited because I want to see how it works.
So Richard, we'll give you the second to last word. What do you got, man?
Oh, gosh. I mean, again, to mirror Martin's thing, I mean, honestly, I could quickly fly into obviously heirs and everybody's stuff, but and then the other door that I'm not going to open is that honestly though, like so many of the books I think about, because that's all I'm doing now is looking at other people's books and helping those come together, that I don't want to plug like because it's Scoop, but like I'm so so many of the things are coming out. So the other person that I do know that is here, who is a great creator, who's not sitting up here right now, but he's back there with his wife over on the side here, is Austin Janowski, who's been doing a lot of great stuff. He does coincidentally have something coming out with Scoop, but he's got a lot of other stuff going on as well, and he crosses over to several different publishers. So you can stop by his table and kind of sample his stuff.
All right, so we've definitely run out of time, but if you're here at the show in the room, if you're at the show watching this, or if you're watching this later on, make sure you go look up or stop by for Anthony Sika, for Roland Mann at Silverline, for Mark Pierre, Richard Rivera. My name is Matt Knowles. We thank you guys for taking your time out to come hang out with this panel. So thank you.